What were you doing at TPUSA, Cenk?
As you see me slapping you right here, what's a part of that seems like cozying up to the right? I think you hate our Constitution, so what part of that is cozying up to the right-wing?
Let's watch a heated debate between Cenk Uygur and right-wing charlatan Andrew Wilson on Piers Morgan, where Cenk, for all his faults he may have, still was able to shred him and bring up multiple well-fleshed-out points that I thought we could look at and then bring up some much-needed context for. Hey you, yes, you! We now have a Substack website where you can help support the channel. For just $8 a month, you can get daily articles exposing the chaos in Trump's first 100 days, a weekly podcast, and other exclusive perks, all while helping the channel grow and defend democracy. This is something that's not just very important to me, but enables us to get our message out to the most amount of people while also being just a genuine passion that I would love to pursue. So for those who have been wondering how to support the channel, how to help us grow, you can sign up now at the first link in our description. Thank you, and let's get back to the video.
For the people who went to the Capitol, it's an obvious crime to break into the Capitol. And why were they doing that? They were trying to overturn the results of the election. So you could blah, blah, blah on all your talking points, but it's absurdity. Obviously, they were trying to hurt our democracy. They were trying to steal that election. And were some of them violent? Were all of them violent? No. Were some of them violent? Obviously. We have eyes and ears. So you can do all the propaganda you want, but we just watch the tape of them trying to beat the crap out of the cops. I thought you guys cared about cops. I care about crime. I'm against crime, and we take heat sometimes from the left because they think that crime is a right-wing narrative and doesn't actually exist. Well, the voters just showed you it does exist, and they're pissed about it. But they're also pissed about it when you go beat up cops for Trump. So look, I'm past it because the American people voted. They put Trump back in office, and that's pretty definitive. I didn't want that, but it happened, right? But if you're going to try to do revisionist history, that these were some patriots who showed up for a picnic, but oh golly gee, there was a Capitol, so they started to bust in and beat the living crap out of the cops, and oh, he lost the election, but oh no, it was stolen.
I love when Cenk gets animated just like this, but he's also exactly right. And at the point that Trump won this election, if MAGA had any dignity, they would just admit that they lost in 2020. They would condemn the violence that happened on January 6th, and they would want to move on from it as a party. But so many of them are like, they have their entire personalities latched onto this, with voter fraud being so central to the motivating factor of that they psychologically are unable to admit that they were duped, even in the face of all evidence. The simple fact is, people broke into the Capitol. They attacked Capitol Police, delayed the peaceful transfer of power for the first time in American history, while there was also this overarching plan going on that involved taking Congress members hostage, pressuring Mike Pence to overturn the election. Obviously, the federal government has a responsibility to prosecute this in a way that will dissuade anyone else from ever trying to do this again. The barricades were broke down, the Capitol was broken into, hundreds of cops were injured, and multiple died, all at Trump's direction and because of MAGA. That's just the reality, and they should own it.
So look, guys, what happened on May 30th was nothing but a protest. But if they attack Secret Service guys, then they should be arrested. That's a violent crime. I'm principled on both of those things. And in Portland, when they took over a portion of the city, I was against it. Like, well, that's not a thing. You don't get to take over a portion of a city. I was against it when gangs took over apartment complexes and buildings in Colorado. So if Trump stays with things that the American people are in favor of, getting rid of the violent felons that are undocumented here, that's going to be very popular, whether the left likes it or doesn't like it, right? But when he goes too far and he goes to things like birthright citizenship, then people are going to push back. And that's when it gets interesting. Is Trump going to double down and go, no, I'm going to, go to demagogue on this and get you people to hate, foreigners coming in, et cetera. And I don't care what the Constitution says.
What I really want to focus on pointing out here is something called whataboutism, and it's something the right does constantly, but it's logically fallacious, and I think it helps distract from the overarching points, and Democrats fall into this a lot. Cenk points out the January 6th protests, the rioters, and how MAGA should own this, how I was talking about. And Andrew goes, well, what about BLM on this date? And what about this? And what about this from your side, despite also it's not really a dichotomy. They're not equivalent. No one on the left is campaigning to release BLM people arrested. Nobody pardoned BLM people arrested. But what you have to realize also with the point for doing that, it would be a comparison. It would be to say, well, you see this really bad thing? It's comparable to this, which means they're both bad. But MAGA never means it like this. They're just like, oh, well, what about this? As if it justifies Trump's bad thing, or to just then turn the conversation about that and away from Trump. Like when Trump steals documents, brags about it in audio, hides it from the FBI, it's never, okay, that was wrong. It's, well, what about Hillary and the private server? But MAGA is also never saying this to say, well, yeah, what Hillary did is bad, and what Trump did is bad is bad. What Trump did is bad too. It's always like, well, what Hillary did is bad, so what Trump did is fine. It makes no logical sense. And I think it's why we should never waste our time answering these kind of really dumb call-outs from MAGA.
Cenk Uygur thinks it's neat that a chick can do this. It's like, no, that's not part of our ethical standard there. That's not what it is. We don't have an ethical standard based around your version of the woke Bible. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
When you call a respected bishop a chick and satanic.
Respected by who?
It's funny that you don't see that you lose such a giant percentage of the country. And so, like, guys like this make it nearly impossible for a huge part of the country to ever vote for Republicans. Because if you vote for a Republican, you're going to get these ghouls and goblins. And they're going to say, oh, yeah, chicks shouldn't be on bishops, man. It's inversion, dude. It's satanic. You sound insane. You sound, to me, honestly, you sound like you belong in a mental asylum. Or when you call people satanic. What the hell does that even mean?
Are always
and just because she's a woman, just because she's a woman, she's satanic in that role.
These are the kind of people who only value religion in so much that it enables their bigotry. People who are actually religious long ago realized that these ideals are far outdated, that they were made by man because of the time period they were in, and they're in no way inducive to the message of God, or that would actually be in the Bible, or what Christianity should actually represent. These are the people like Art Andrew, who if you don't know about him, spends his career arguing with like OnlyFans models, where he expresses things like, and this is shared by a lot of people on the Christian right, that women shouldn't be able to work, that we should repeal the 19th Amendment and women shouldn't be able to vote. They should be completely subservient to their husbands. They shouldn't be able to lead in any manner, like being the Pope here, which is what he's talking about, having an issue with the Pope who asked Trump to have sympathy on immigrants, and now they're all mad about it. And it's a large part of the population who thinks this way, again, and then uses religion to justify it. And it's got to be one of the most vile and pervasive things in the world. Like this idea that if you've read the Bible, especially like the message of the four apostles, that you would turn around and think God doesn't want same-sex people to be able to love each other, or that trans girl to be happy, or a woman to be the Pope, then you really just lost the plot. I don't know what else to say, right? The same persecution that Jesus came to save his people from, that the Bible is like the story of, is what people are now inflicting in his name onto others. Again, I just don't know how we ended up in this timeline.